Hello, my name's Colin. I've been in education for over 30 years, and today I'm going to use puppets to help to illustrate some very basic points on communication and understanding behaviour and finding the correct responses. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome along to the training course today run by Colin Training and Consultancy Services. Before I start on our main subject, I would like to present to you some very, very basic information about good communication skills, which is going to underpin everything that we do. And it's to do with actually how the whole brain and the whole person work together that influences how we communicate, how we understand. And I've brought along to help me a group of characters here called the Psycho Puppets, which sounds like a very badly named 1980s band, but I assure you that you're quite safe and there will be no singing involved. So, before I actually get on to using those puppets to demonstrate, I usually start by asking people, and how many different emotions have they experienced during a day? How many different physical sensations have you experienced during a day? And usually one says, countless. I can begin to actually consider how many I experience. But often we're very unaware of what effect those sensations have upon us. And hopefully today with our Psycho Puppets we might get a better understanding of how these things actually affect basic communication and what we can do to actually make communication more effective and ultimately more assertive. The mouse brain. This is the highest functioning part of the brain. It's the part which processes language. It's the part which gets into action, decides what to do. The psychologists call it executive function. And this mouse acts, just like the mouse on the computer, to actually start to activate that brain to do things, to activate that processor. So it's not just hearing, but it becomes understanding. And when you hear something, it's like moving over to a cut and paste of something that you've heard before. Oh yes, that sounds familiar. I have that. It's also part of the brain which actually goes down into memories, makes choices, makes reasoned decisions. Which one of those things should I do? Now, we know that when we get angry, we don't spend a lot of time thinking, which door shall I slam? We just go ahead and slam a door, and that might be the least we do. But this is the choice brain, this is the reason brain. Often, we are assuming that people are inhabiting this brain all of the time. We use a lot of talk to get people to understand what we want. We're offering people a lot of choices all the time on a day-to-day basis, and we're assuming that actually they are in a calm enough state to make rational responses to the things that we're putting forward. Well, that might not necessarily always be true for one reason or another. It could be because you've had a bad day. It could be because you've not slept very well. It could be because you've got toothache. It could also be that actually the habit is nobody ever listens to me. Nobody ever understands me. So what's the point of listening? I'm not going to listen. I'm just going to get my bit in first. Now, these characteristics, these reactive characteristics, these old habits, these things that perhaps come from the very, very depths of our childhood experiences, belong to a different part of the brain, which usually inhabits this part down here, the lower part of the brain. And this is known as the reptile brain, or the fight and flight brain. And it's the part that will react, and what it will do is it will eat the mouse brain. So when you're in that stressed reptilian basic brain function, and this reactive brain can drive some very aggressive or very passive behaviours. Sometimes it can drive very self-destructive behaviours. You often see in mythology the shape of the snake eating its own tail. Now, self-harming is an example of this. Or actually always putting yourself down. I can't do it. I'm not going to do that. I'm too scared to do that. That's not me. I'm sure you all know when you're angry and upset and someone says, now what you need to do is... And the last thing is, I don't. I just need a cup of tea. Or whatever. I don't want solutions. I just want a bit of basic need. I need a drink. I need a cup of tea. I need a biscuit. I need to feel safe. If this brain gets really engaged, with being reactive. It can sometimes become hyperactive, a bit like Tigger brain. I want it, I want it, I want it now, I want it now, I want it now. I want to do it again, I want to do it again and again and again. Our addictive behaviour, our hyperactive behaviour, where we start rushing around, the adrenaline's going. We often see this in children with attention deficit disorders. I knew it was wrong, I couldn't help myself, I just did it, went for it. So it just becomes an impulse. Basic needs, routine, what's happening next? I need to find my safe cave where I can go to again and again and again. I need my corner in the room. I need to sit in the same place. Often when I do courses over 2 or 3 days, delegates come back and sit in exactly the same place day after day. But this is a brain that needs routine and basic needs being met. We'll come on to more of what they need in a second. But you can see that actually if you want to understand and if you want to communicate, you've almost got to understand where is this person at the moment. There's no point in talking to somebody who you think their mouse brain's engaged when their reptile brain's engaged. Not going to listen. And then we get confrontation. You're not listening to me! I've said it so many times! How many times do I have to tell you? I'm not listening to you. Bang. Been there? Sure we all have. Okay, well let's have a look at some other characteristics of how the brain might affect communication. There's a middle part of the brain which we liken to some very basic mammals, the limbic system. And this is, that's why I've got this dog characteristic, this is the part of the brain which actually responds very well to senses. How many people learnt their times table or their alphabet or any other thing they had to remember through song, through rhythm, through clapping, through stamping as a young child? Most people have those experiences. Unfortunately, we have those less and less because they've become more virtual now rather than active. Look, a lot of people, I can only remember my mobile phone number if I sing it, and I promise you I'm not going to do that today. No? Musical memory works. It might be a song. It might be a rhythm. It might be something where the sensor says, oh, that's familiar. We use this a lot now with Alzheimer's. Singing old songs, touching things, smells, all of those. We use it a lot in special education to help with memory and engagement. This is a sensory, and then the brain feels, oh yes, familiar. I've seen it before. I've had that before. It begins to relax this reactive brain through sensory experiences. The other thing it does is that actually it gets validation. I know what's happening next. I can do it. My confidence increases. I can start to think about choices that I can make because I know what's going to come next. That's how music works. It's not just a list, it has a rhythm, and I know what's going to come at the end of the song, because it always does. And that part gives yourself this positive stroking, which is why you use this dog. Dogs like positive stroking. Of course, if they get treated badly, they can behave badly, just like all of us. We don't get that. The other part of the sensory side is the sensory interaction of communication, what I like to call the monkey dance. When we get into conversation and we start nodding, and we start saying hello, and we get a smile back, oh, we got one, and we get a little bit of eye contact that's there, and we start to engage. We have turn taking. And then the other person feels engaged. And this actually triggers off our mirror neurons of communication, which start saying, oh, I've got something to say now. And this dance starts to take place where we get engagement. And when this takes place, often we feel very relaxed. You know, if you go to a party where you don't know anybody, I always go to parties where I don't know anybody because I've got any friends, but there you go. And once you're there, you feel very nervous, you feel very stiff until someone starts talking about something familiar, like cricket. And then instantly we can have this dance, as we did, did we not, about cricket just a few minutes ago. Never met you before in my life, but we were there singing the praises of Kevin Peterson. And that's because we indulged in this dialogue. And this becomes very, very important. There are many children I work with which don't have these social communication skills. Many on the autistic spectrum do not have this. And it's a bit of a myth to say that they will never learn it. They will learn it, but we have to teach them it. We have to over-engage with them. We have to actually encourage them into the turn-taking dance. Before that, we might offer them some sensory encouragement. And before that, we need to give them very, very clear routines so they know what's happening If all those are in place, this shy creature, because the mouse is a shy creature, doesn't always want to come out, doesn't always want to engage, will easily run away. If all those are in place, then our processing brain begins to come out and starts to engage in what are called executive functions, starts to make choices, starts to understand things, becomes a responsive rather than a reactive being. So, now we'll address our subject for the day, bearing all those things in mind. Thank you very much. What you've seen today is just an introduction to the subject, and it's something that could be used for helping with people with special needs. It can help with behaviour, it can help with communication, and the courses then go on to practical situations and looking for practical solutions. So I hope to see you at one of the courses. Thank you.